When thinking about fictional films that use non-fictional elements to convey their story, one often first thinks of found footage. It is the quintessential subgenre when it comes to fabricating reality. However, films have been utilizing non-fictional mediums to portray fiction for decades before found footage came about with Cannibal Holocaust. Today I want to talk about one film which uses non-fictional elements to ground its otherwise high-concept story. This video serves as an extension to one of my previous videos, Aestheticizing Reality: Why Found Footage Failed. My argument in Aestheticizing Reality comes down to the fact that the reason found footage failed is the fact that modern found footage no longer replicates the way people consume non-fictional media, both in story, presentation, and release format. However, that argument is only applicable as long as one wishes to create a complete sense of falsified reality, when that isn't often the case. It ignores the fact that some filmmakers might simply opt to use non-fictional elements in their stories as a tool for enhancing their fiction, rather than with the goal of replacing it entirely. So in addition to the ideas covered in Aestheticizing Reality, I want to cover the other end of the spectrum. A filmmaker who has no desire to create a sense of realism in his storytelling, but chooses to use a non-fictional medium to tell the story anyway. The film I am talking about is La Jetée, directed by Chris Marker. La Jetée is set in a world ravaged by war, in which most of humanity has been completely wiped out and the earth has been made uninhabitable. Its only remnants are the ruins of the old world and the few survivors hiding out underground. The survivors wish to return to their old way of life, but there doesn't seem to be a way of achieving that in the present, so they look to the past. They experiment with time travel technology, using people with strong memories of the old world to travel to the past, with the goal of undoing what has already been done. Our protagonist is one of the experiment's guinea pigs, chosen due to an extremely strong memory of a woman at a pier. The film follows these time travel experiments as the protagonist attempts to go back to that moment on the pier and reunite with the woman. I don't have to tell you that this narrative is very far out of our everyday experiences. But the focus of Marker's storytelling is not on La Jetée's science fiction plot. The larger story of the film might be one of a post-war apocalypse, unethical experiments, and time travel. But the majority of the film is rooted in the protagonist's interactions with the woman in the distant past. We don't see war in La Jetée. We see our protagonist taking a walk with the woman in a park. We see them talking about the past. We see her sleeping on a bench or going through an old museum. Marker attempts to convey the feeling of a memory, which is an inherently subjective experience. Film is a difficult medium to do that through, as the entire structure of conventional filmmaking relies on the audience observing the film's characters in a third-person perspective. The way La Jetée circumvents this is by replacing any objective interactions between them with the protagonist's subjective interpretation of them. The woman is a key element in the film, but anything she says or does is filtered through the protagonist's experience of it. We don't listen to the two's conversation. We have segments of the conversation relate to us from the narrator's perspective. We don't observe the couple's entire walk. We are shown specific instances from the walk that the narrator believes are important. Only imagery that sticks out to the protagonist is shown to us, mimicking the way real memory works. The moments shown to us aren't random. Marker specifically chooses moments in line with what the film's protagonist would be likely to remember, mostly due to them carrying an emotional association. Furthermore, memories are never a reliable, clean narrative, so the moments Marker chooses to show us through the narration and the visuals don't follow any coherent narrative either. They are just a collection of moments that stand out to the protagonist, parts of a greater whole but never the whole itself. La Jetée doesn't follow a standard narrative, as that wouldn't be in line with the nature of memories. Its structure is instead a vague, hazy cloud of individual moments that come together to build a clearer picture of our protagonist and his past, present, and future. With Marker's intentions in creating La Jetée clearer, let's dig into a key element of how the film's story is presented and the reason I'm making this video. Marker chooses to portray the film entirely through a collection of black and white photographs. We don't see footage of the couple walking, the walk is presented through still images. But photography isn't simply used as a gimmick. A collection of stills perfectly builds onto the loose narrative crafted in the film. Even sequences that are relatively linear aren't truly linear. A continuous event is portrayed to us through a sequence of small disjointed moments that the protagonist remembers from that day. The same plot could be just as easily conveyed through motion. But the use of photography frames each second as an unreachable, unchangeable moment forever stuck in time. The medium is used to visually convey the film's time travel philosophy. This effect has another layer added to it because of the style of photography used. Arguably, the most effective way to convey the emotion of a moment and emulate a memory in photographic form is through keeping the photograph simple and authentic. So Marker opts to do just that. All of the photographs presented in the film feel like they've been taken in the moment, far from what you would consider stereotypical model photography. The protagonist and the woman aren't obviously being posed and lit by a professional crew to make sure they have their most flattering angles. They are simple and authentic photos captured of the couple in motion. The use of photography turns each moment into a fragment of a memory. The raw style of photography used makes those moments feel more relatable to the average person's life, as it more closely aligns with the tools the average person uses for recalling their own memories. The average person primarily uses photography to capture significant life moments. Contrary to that, video is more often restricted to bigger productions and fictional stories, especially when considering that filmmaking technology was significantly less accessible in the time period La Jetée was made in. Photography has become associated with the idea of memories themselves. By choosing to use naturalistic photographs instead of video to tell a story, Marker makes the event the audience is witnessing appear grounded. While it is never explicitly stated or even implied that the photographs in the film are found media, they are used to much the same effect as the camcorder in the Blair Witch Project. Marker recreates the feeling of home photographs in order to incite nostalgia in the audience. The utilization of a simpler medium that the viewer is more closely connected to in their everyday life triggers a stronger emotional response. And hijacking the relatability of the style of presentation to maximize the film's effect is not unlike the techniques used in the found footage films discussed in my previous video. In that sense, I believe there is a lot that found footage filmmakers can learn from La Jetée's visual presentation. In an age where found footage has become merely an aesthetic rather than a functional tool, fiction filmmakers dabbling in non-fictional media should reconsider their approach. While Aestheticizing Reality presents a guide for creating a full sense of immersion in an audience, La Jetée proves that that isn't always necessary. It proves that there is room within the film medium for films that dabble in found footage without fully committing to the subgenre. For a film to be effective, you don't need to convince the audience that the footage they're watching is genuine non-fiction. You just need to use non-fictional media in a way that enhances the film's emotional core. You're never tricked into believing La Jetée's still photography is real. But that never matters, is what you feel while watching the protagonist's memories unfold is as real as it gets.